Here is the thing about that compound interest chart everyone keeps showing you. The one that starts as a flat little line and then rockets into the millions somewhere around year 30. You've seen it, probably on a finance blog, probably in a retirement planning PDF your HR department emailed you, probably tattooed onto the brain of whatever advisor sold you your first index fund. That chart is technically not a lie, but it is built to hide the only number that actually matters in your real life. The number nobody puts on the chart is $200 a month. Below that line, compound interest doesn't break, it doesn't stop. It just runs so quietly, so invisibly, so painfully slowly, that, for the first 10 years of your life as an investor, your brokerage balance is mathematically indistinguishable from a checking account at a credit union. And here is the part that should make you uncomfortable. Most of the calculators you've ever used were specifically designed to keep that fact out of your line of sight. They give you the curve, not the flat part where you actually live. The S&P 500 averaged roughly 10% a year over the last century. Strip out inflation, you get something closer to 7. Every figure I'm about to put in front of you assumes 8%, conservative, defensible, not a glossy marketing number, not a best-case scenario someone dreamed up to sell you a course. $50 a month, 8% return, after 1 full year of never missing a deposit. Congratulations, you've earned approximately $5 in returns. 5, not 500. Keep going. 10 full years of that $50 deposit, never skipped, never reduced, never interrupted by a flat tire, or a vet bill, or a Christmas. Your account holds roughly $9,200. Of that, almost $6,000 is just your own money that you walked into the account yourself. Less than $3,200 came from the miracle of compounding. All of that in an entire decade. 30 years. 3 decades of iron discipline. $74,500. Now, hold that number in your hand for a second. The Bureau of Labor Statistics put average annual household expenditures in the United States at roughly $40,000 in 2025, which means 30 years of perfect, unbroken, religious-grade discipline buys you less than 2 years of average American living. That is the actual output of the chart everyone shows you. And it is not because you lacked character. It is not because you weren't disciplined enough, frugal enough, smart enough, early enough. It is because you were operating below a threshold that almost no one will name out loud. This is where I have to break something for you, and I want you to feel it land. Almost every piece of financial advice you have ever absorbed treats wealth building as one long continuous process. Same vocabulary at month 1 and month 300. Same logic, same encouragement, same chart. That framing is wrong, quietly, structurally, expensively wrong. There are 2 completely different phases of building wealth, and they obey completely different rules. They have different priorities, a different relationship with your return rate. They even have a different relationship with your discipline. And because the industry talks about them as one smooth ride, the most painful, most demoralizing stretch of your investing life gets explained to you with the language meant for a stage you have not reached yet. Think about A turbocharged engine for a second. A turbo takes the exhaust gas, the waste, the literal byproduct of combustion, and uses it to spin a turbine that crams more air back into the cylinders. Output becomes input. The waste fuels the next round. That is the same architecture as compound interest, a feedback loop, where growth feeds growth. But here is what nobody ever explains. When they sell you a start investing today pitch, a turbo does not work at low RPM. Below a certain engine speed, there simply isn't enough exhaust pressure to spin the turbine fast enough to matter. The turbo is bolted to the engine. It is physically real. It is technically present. But it is doing nothing you can feel. Every bit of power coming out of that car is coming from you, from raw combustion, from exactly what you pour in. Your portfolio in the first decade is that engine. 10 years in, you're sitting on $9,200. 20 years, $29,500. 30 years, the full marathon, the entire span of your prime earning life, and you land at $74,500. That is your retirement. 30 years of discipline, 74 grand. Now bump it, 200 a month. 10 years, 36,800. 20 years, 117,800. 30 years, 298,000. Push it to 400 a month. 10 years, 73,700. 20 years, 235,600. 30 years, $596,000. Same rate of return, same time, same market. The only variable was the size of the spoon you used to feed the machine, and the terminal number moved from 74,000 to 596,000, an 8-fold gap. Not because one investor was smarter, not because one picked better stocks, because one put more in the bucket every month. But here is the line in that table that almost nobody circles, the one the calculators on every brokerage homepage are quietly designed to keep your eye away from. At $50 a month, your portfolio never crosses $100,000. Not at year 10, not at year 20, not at year 30. You spend your entire investing lifetime stuck in the slow part of the curve. The engine never reaches the RPM where the turbo engages. You grind through 3 full decades of contributions, 3 decades of brown bag lunches, and skipped vacations, and you never once arrive in the part of the journey where compounding starts doing the heavy lifting for you. The boost never kicks in. You die in phase 1. At $400 a month, you cross the 100,000 line somewhere around year 14, and the second you cross it, the math flips on its axis. Suddenly, the monthly gain from your portfolio's own returns starts outpacing the 400 you're adding from your paycheck. The engine is now feeding itself faster than you can feed it. You get 16 more years of that compounding behavior before the 30-year mark. 16 years where the curve genuinely steepens, where the chart finally starts to resemble the hockey stick the influencers promised you. That is the difference between a retirement and a part-time shift at a hardware store when you're 73, and that is not a metaphor. That is the literal arithmetic gap between 596,000 and 74,000 stretched across an average lifespan. Andrew Hallam, a high school English teacher in British Columbia, retired with over $1 million on a teacher's salary. He wrote a book about it. Everyone who reads it walks away talking about the frugality, drive the old Honda, pack the tuna sandwich, skip the lifestyle creep. Yes, all of that is in the book. All of it is true, and all of it is missing the actual point. The frugality was not the destination. The frugality was the mechanism. It was the only way a teacher's paycheck could fund a monthly contribution, large enough to cross the threshold, while he still had a decade and a half of phase 2 left to do the real work. By his own account, the last 10 years before he retired felt almost effortless. The math had taken over the steering wheel. The engine was running on its own momentum. He could stop thinking about it. Before the turbo, you're counting pennies on lunch. After the turbo, lunch doesn't matter. The portfolio earns more in a quiet Tuesday than you'd save skipping restaurants for a month. Nobody posts the packing lunch years. Instagram shows you year 18 of someone else's portfolio. You glance at your month 40 and conclude your strategy is broken. The strategy is not broken. You are simply standing in a different section of the same. Here is the thing nobody wants to say out loud about phase 1. The reason your account looks dead isn't because you picked the wrong fund. It is not because the market is rigged this quarter. It is because you don't own enough of the asset yet for the asset to do anything for you. And that single sentence is the entire financial pyramid in one line. Look at the arithmetic. Without the motivational soundtrack, 8% of $10,000 is $800 a year, $67 a month. That is one tank of gas. That is a grocery run for a family of 3. That is not a life. 8% of 100,000 is 8,000 a year, 667 a month, and suddenly the same percentage starts paying a utility bill while you sleep. 8% of 500,000 is 40,000 a year, 3,300 a month. And now the same percentage is paying a mortgage. Same math, same fund. The only thing that changed is the size of the pile sitting underneath the percentage. Think about that for a second. The percentage is identical at every level. The percentage is not what separates the person clipping coupons from the person who quietly stopped opening their paychecks. The pile is, the ownership is, the base of the asset is, and almost nobody under 40 owns enough of the base for the percentage to be anything more than a rounding error on their checking account. So here is the quiet question this raises, and it is the question financial media will root around for the entire length of your working life. If the percentage doesn't move your life until the pile is large, then who owns the large piles right now? Who is currently sitting at the level where 8% prints $3,300 a month without lifting a finger? It is not the person watching this video on a 15-minute lunch break. It is the person whose grandfather opened a brokerage account in 1962 and never closed it. It is the household that inherited the pile and now lets the percentage do the heavy lifting they were told. The rest of us would also get to enjoy if we just stayed disciplined. That is the part the chart leaves out. The chart shows you the curve going up. The chart does not show you that the curve only matters once the base is built, and the base takes a working class income somewhere between 15 and 25 years of uninterrupted deposits to construct. 25 years of not getting laid off. 25 years of no medical event large enough to drain the account. 25 years of not redirecting 4 months of contributions into a biotech stock. Your brother-in-law mentioned at a dinner party because the position lost 60% by summer, and that $800, which was supposed to compound into $8,500 over 30 years, is now sitting in someone else's brokerage account, doing the heavy lifting for them instead of you. That is the transfer nobody draws on the whiteboard. Your phase 1 mistake does not vanish. It relocates. The $800 you fed into the speculative trade became liquidity for the counterparty who sold it to you at the top. The 1% advisory fee skimmed off your portfolio every year for 30 years did not evaporate into administrative paperwork. It compounded inside someone else's balance sheet. $245,000 of compounding that was supposed to be sitting in your account at retirement is sitting in the operating income of an advisory firm that already deployed it into their own pile. Same 8%, different owner, different life. This is what the effort narrative is built to hide. You are told the variable is your discipline, your savings rate, your willingness to skip the latte. And yes, those matter inside your tiny radius of control. But the structural variable, the one that decides whether 8% prints a tank of gas or a mortgage payment, is who owns the base when the compounding begins. And most people enter the game with a base of 0, which means the first 15 years are not investing in any meaningful sense. The first 15 years are pile construction. The percentage is along for the ride, but the percentage is not yet the worker. You are the worker. Your paycheck is the worker. Your deposit discipline is the worker. The asset is still an infant. And here is where the system gets surgical. Every product placed in front of you during pile construction is designed to slow the construction. The 1% advisory fee that feels like nothing on a 16th. Here is the thing about every "I'll start investing more once I get the next raise" promise you've made to yourself. It never happens. Not because you're lazy, not because you're broke, not because the market scared you off. It doesn't happen because the contribution number you typed into a web form 4 years ago is still sitting there, untouched, quietly running your entire financial future on autopilot, at a speed that was designed for a version of you who earned less, owed more, and didn't yet understand what you understand right now. That is the real trap, not the market, not the fund selection, not some exotic tax shelter your coworker's brother-in-law keeps mentioning at barbecues. The trap is a 3-digit number in a settings menu that hasn't been opened since the day HR walked you through enrollment. So forget the big strategy conversation for a second. Forget rebalancing. Forget asset allocation. Forget whether small cap value is going to have its decade. None of that matters if the fuel line is the diameter of a coffee stirrer. The single action that moves Marcus from a $121,000 retirement to a $337,000 retirement is a smarter portfolio. It is 15 minutes on a Tuesday night. Here is the action. Write it down if you have to. Tonight, after you finish whatever you are doing, you are going to log into your 401k or your IO or your brokerage. Not next weekend. Not after you look at the budget. Tonight, you are going to find the contribution settings page. It will be buried 2 or 3 clicks deep because the platform does not want you to find it. Vanguard hides it under Manage My Money. Fidelity tucks it inside Contribution Amount. Schwab files it under Automatic Investments. Find it, and then you are going to increase your monthly contribution by exactly $50. Not a heroic restructuring of your entire financial life. 50, 1, 0 in front of a 5 and a 0. That is the whole instruction. I know what your brain is doing right now. It is calculating. It is saying $50 isn't going to fix anything. $50 a month is a single dinner out, a streaming bundle, a tank and a half of gas. $50 feels insulting compared to the size of the problem. That feeling is the entire reason this works, because the part of you that wants to do something real is the same part of you that will, predictably, do nothing at all. It will research for 3 weekends, open 17 browser tabs comparing target date funds, and then close the laptop having changed exactly 0 settings. $50 is small enough that the part of your brain in charge of self-preservation does not flag it as a threat. It will not run defense. It will not invent a reason to wait for next month's bonus. It will let the change go through, and once the change goes through, the autopay mechanism does the rest. Every month, on a date you will forget, in an amount you will stop noticing inside of 6 weeks. That is the mechanism. Not motivation, not discipline, not a renewed commitment to your future self. A settings change that took less time than reheating leftovers. Now here is the part the calculator pages bury. $50 a month, over 27 years, at the same boring 8%, adds roughly $56,000 to your terminal balance on its own. From one evening. From one form. But that is not even the real number, because what $50 actually does is move your crossover date forward. It pulls the moment your returns start outpacing your contributions closer by a measurable number of months. And every month you steal from phase 1 and hand to phase 2 compounds at a rate that has nothing to do with the size of the original deposit. This is the part Marcus didn't understand for 8 years. He thought the fight was about picking better. It was never about picking better. It was about feeding the same engine he already owned. Same account, same target, date glide path. Just more fuel arriving on the same date every month. Quietly, without ceremony, without him needing to feel anything about it. So here is the mechanical sequence. No interpretation required. Step 1. Open the app or the website tonight. Not the mobile app summary screen. The actual contribution settings. Locate the current monthly amount. Look at it. Notice that you have not changed it since the year you set it. Step 3. Add fifth. So here is what I am not going to do at the end of this. I am not going to tell you that $50 extra a month is going to turn you into a millionaire by Friday. I am not going to flash a screenshot of somebody's brokerage account with 7 figures on it and pretend that is the standard outcome. I am not going to promise you that if you follow these 3 levels, you will retire at 40 on a beach in Portugal with a laptop and a smug expression. That is not the deal. That has never been the deal. And every single person who sold you that version of the story was selling you something else underneath it. Usually a course, usually a fund, usually a newsletter, usually themselves. What I am going to promise you is much smaller and much more honest. I am going to promise you that the math does not care about your feelings, your timing, your guilt about the years you wasted, or the raise you spent on a slightly nicer apartment in 2019. The math runs whether you watch it or not, and the only thing you actually control, the only lever that has ever mattered, is whether you are feeding the engine or starving it. That is it. That is the entire promise. So let us be precise about what you are walking away with. Because vague closings are how these videos die in your head before you reach the kitchen. You are walking away with 1 action, not 7, not a checklist. 1. Log into the account you already have, the one you opened 2 years ago and have not touched since. The one where the contribution amount is still set to whatever you guessed at when you were a slightly different person, making slightly less money. Open it. Find the recurring contribution field. Add $50. Save. Close the tab. That is the whole maneuver. 15 minutes, maybe less if your password manager actually works. And over 20 years at 8%, that single 15-minute decision compounds to roughly $29,400. Not life-changing, not retirement, not freedom, just $29,400 that would not have existed in the universe otherwise. Sitting there because you logged in on a Tuesday. That is the floor. That is the smallest possible version of this working. And I am telling you the floor, because the floor is the only number anyone selling you anything refuses to show you. The second thing you walk away with is a date. Not a dream, a date. Go to any compound interest calculator. Plug in your current balance, your current monthly contribution, 8%, and find the year your portfolio crosses $100,000. Write that year on something physical, a sticky note on your monitor, the inside cover of whatever notebook you actually open, your phone wallpaper if you are the kind of person who changes wallpapers. That year is your threshold date. That is when phase 1 ends and phase 2 begins, when the returns start out. earning your contributions, and the engine starts pulling its own weight. Now ask the only question that matters. What monthly number drags that date 2 years closer? Not the return rate, not the fund, not the allocation, the contribution. Because 2 extra years of phase 2 compounding on the back end will outproduce any return optimization fantasy you could chase on the front end. The threshold date is the variable you manage your financial life around. Everything else is noise that other people get paid to sell you. The third thing you walk away with is a pre-decision. There is money coming to you that does not exist yet. A raise in March, a bonus in December, a tax refund in April, a car loan that ends in 14 months and frees up roughly $700 a month of cash flow that, statistically, you will not consciously notice disappearing into slightly nicer dinners and a streaming bundle you did not mean to subscribe to. Write the date, write the approximate amount, write the exact percentage you will redirect to investments the moment it lands. 50% is the number that works. 50% gets invested before lifestyle has a chance to calculate that it has new budget to absorb. The other 50% improves your life. Both things happen at the same time, and neither one feels like deprivation, but the decision has to be made now in writing while there is no actual money in your hand. Because the version of you standing next to a car dealership holding a tax refund is not the version of you who invests it. That person spends it. Every time, the only version of you who invests it is the one making the decision today, in the abstract, while the money is still imaginary. That is the system. One login, one date, one pre-decision.